because the entire system is driven by a vicious circle where we have created a new kind of animal called the developer, and it's the developer who controls everything, and he decides what is to be done, he decides who should do what, he controls the political system. There used to be a time when the developer, there were no developers. The first cooperative housing society in Mumbai came in 1910. It was the Saraswat Cooperative Housing Society on Laburnum Road, where Mahatma Gandhi's house is on one side at Mani Bhavan. Down the lane is the Saraswat Cooperative Housing Society, which still continues to stand 108 years down the line. It's still there. Then came Talmakiwadi, then came the Parsi colonies, which were all colonies between 1910 and 1965 or 1970, were initiatives taken by people who needed to get a house, went and approached the landlord, bought the place, went and approached a funding agency, HUDCO in specific, and sometimes banks as well. And then they funded an effort, appointed an architect, got plans approved, appointed a contractor, got the things done, contributed the money, got into the houses and paid their installment for 20 years. That's how Mumbai grew between 1910 and 1970. So which means about 60 years Mumbai grew by initiative of the people and the need-driven growth. But then came prosperity, we got more money, we became lazy, we had 2 minutes noodles, we had dip instant tea, and we needed a house also. So our only example for a house was Sri Krishna going to Sudama and meeting him, and Sudama giving some pohas to Sri Krishna, and Sudama then goes back home, and lo and behold comes the house. So the new Sri Krishna is the builder, and the new Sudama is the residents of Mumbai, and you just hand over all that you have to the builder, give him a power of attorney, give him an irrevocable consent. Even when you take feras around the Agni for 7 times, there is still a divorce. But for a builder, an irrevocable consent has no divorce, no coming back, because builders don't need liberated people. That can only happen at homes and marriages, but they don't require. So the government succumbed to the pressure from the builders, and so initially the builders started off. The first builders were in Parle, which were a family called Paranspace, who owned most of Parle. So they said, this is our land, so we will build on it, and we will give you ready-made flats. You come and buy them, you get loans, and we will. That was a very crude form of developers, wherein the landlord themselves were developers. That was how it started initially. And then came in the professional developers, wherein he bought land, he built everything, and you just paid him and went in. And so they became rich, they started bribing the politicians. Then the politicians felt that this is a good idea. Politicians made their money out of corruption, and the developers became banks, wherein the politicians said, whatever money I got out of bribe, here you take, and every month just give me some sweet music. Said your lakh has now become 2 lakhs, so I get good sleep in the night. So the politicians' money got rolled through the developers. That was the first phase. First phase, developers made money and paid the politicians during elections. The second phase, the politicians lend money, banked their money, not in banks but with the developer, and the developer saw to it that this money increased. The third phase is that the politician realized that my money is being increased by this guy and I'm getting only a small percentage of that. So the politicians said, why don't I try being a developer? So politicians became developer. There were Benami developers with politicians' money. And then the fourth stage, then when politicians became the developers, the developers thought there's a threat. So the developers started becoming politicians. So now every political party has an MLA, has an MP, who are all developers. So the simple thing of raising money is give tickets to developers and they become your leaders. So the city gets led by developers and it's a developer-driven economy. Call it global, call it international, call it what name you want. But the fact remains that when a developer comes, and today there are no lands. Whatever lands were available, the mill lands were sold and they cornered all of them. And what remains now is redevelopment. So there too you give it to the redeveloper, give him extra area, give him more and more FSI. So he keeps on earning and you keep on remaining where you are. Now that is what has made Mumbai the most unaffordable city anywhere in the world, where 96% of the population says that it cannot afford a house. I asked the Chief Secretary of the government of Maharashtra, I said, you are the highest paid official in the state of Maharashtra. Your salary earlier was a lakh of rupees. Now, under the new pay commission, it may increase and go to even 2 lakhs. So 2 lakhs a month is 24 lakhs a year. 5 lakhs is 1 crore 25 lakhs. In 1 crore 25 lakhs, the area in which you live, can you even buy a garage in that price? Answer is no. So if the highest paid bureaucrat in the city or the highest paid manager in an urban bank cannot afford a house, who can afford? So what do you do when you're faced with this kind of a problem? Extend the boundaries. So Mumbai now becomes MMR. That means you go to Panvel, you go to Khopoli, you go to Karjat and say Mumbai mein ghar diya na. So the best way when you fail and you have no way in which you can solve the problem is to extend the boundary. So what happened earlier, extension of boundary from Fort to Haji Ali and to Parel and to Sion and then Bandra and Kurla and so on. So you postpone your problems by extending the limits of the city and just keep on extending the limits till the time the whole state will be your. Now they have gone further. Now MMR is no more. Now they want to link between Pune and Mumbai. So even those areas between, and then they want to link Pune and Nasik, and then they want to link Nasik and Mumbai, and then that becomes the golden triangle. So keep on extending and make people dream more and give them no solutions. So everyone, all the younger generation keeps on dreaming that now I will get a house. Where is your house? In Vasai. But now you will say MMR. Means you have to, the moment you put Mumbai, you feel a bit happy. It's like a blood pressure tablet which you've taken. You feel happy that you have named it Mumbai. So it is Vasai, it's still Mumbai. It is Virar, it's still Mumbai. It's Mira Bhainder, it's still Mumbai. It's Panvel, it's still Mumbai. It's Thane, it's still Mumbai because it's part of MMR. So extend your boundaries and call it Mumbai, and then all your problem gets solved. That's how the government looks at things. That's not how we look at it. There are solutions. There are solutions to the city's problem. The solutions don't come out of using FSI as a tool, but the solutions come out of looking at people's needs and using the needs as tools. So if in a building there are 50 families living, the 50 families, is my time over? Okay. if there are 50 families living, if the 50 families have to be accommodated, then all you need is change the tool. Instead of giving more FSI, say that there is no FSI. Say that we link the growth to the number of people. De-link the FSI and link it to what you call density. So continuing the density to be the same. If I'm living with my family in a one-room kitchen, my family comprises of 4 people. If I continue to live in 2-room kitchen, even then the pressure on infrastructure is the same. If I live in a 3-room kitchen, even then my children require the same school, the same college, the same road. That doesn't change. So infrastructure doesn't change with increased FSI. Infrastructure changes with increased densities. So when you de-link FSI from the whole gamut of urban development and link it to densities, that is a way where we can